being recorded, so we're going to continue. And we have women listening, and they're going to hear about men. So, but it relates to women. And it's a very nice point I want to discuss tonight, which is my morning. And that is how the man is supposed to satisfy the woman. And all the women saying, yes, this is what I'm telling my husband for the last 399 years. He's not so good at it. Or they might say, well, my husband's very good at it. He understands that. But the other thing is, the woman has to also be satisfied. So that's, it can't be that the woman thinks, yeah, this is the duty of my husband to satisfy me. But one of the qualities of the woman is to be satisfied. And Prabhupada says, woman has to know how to manage with whatever money her husband brings. But, so when a man hears that the woman should be satisfied, he shouldn't think, well, I don't have to do anything because the woman's supposed to be satisfied. No, they're both supposed to be, the man is supposed to satisfy the wife, and the wife is supposed to be satisfied. But here's the interesting point, which gives credence to the duty of the man, is that if the man tries to satisfy the wife will be satisfied. So ladies, at least if your husband's trying to satisfy you, you should try to be satisfied. Now, if your husband knows actually how to satisfy you, you will be satisfied. And so the point from the male perspective is that if the wife is satisfied, then obviously she's happy. And if she's happy, then naturally she wants to please her husband or satisfy her husband. And so, as we've been saying all along, it takes two people. It takes at least one person to do the right thing, which would hopefully affect the other person to do the right thing. But here we see that the perfect combination is if the man is trying to please the wife, and the wife is not difficult to please, and the man also is expert at knowing what will please the wife. And then when the wife is pleased, she'll naturally want to serve the husband, because every man wants his wife to be a nice servant, but not every man knows how or wants to please the wife. So that's where you have the problem. And Bhaktivedanta Purna Swami made a very interesting statement, which he didn't explain where this is from, or maybe this is his own realization or observation. And he said that a woman is beautiful when she's happy, and she's not beautiful when she's not happy. So he said physical beauty has nothing to do with it. He said she's actually happy. She's actually beautiful when she's happy. And so you think about it, I've thought about that. I said, that's interesting, because mostly, a man sees a woman and he doesn't know if she's happy or not, but he just knows if she's beautiful or not. But if a man has a beautiful woman and the woman is depressed, then if you think about it, it's not really beautiful anymore. That beauty kind of becomes ugly. But so he said, every man. So he made an interesting point. He said every man wants a beautiful wife. He said, so a smart man will make his wife happy, because when she's happy, she's beautiful. Interesting point, isn't it? Now, there's not a lot of smart men out there. That's a fact. But you have the example, the story of Devahuti and Kardama. And in that story, Kardama, he's this yogi living out in a hut, or not even in a hut. and his wife is queen, who lives with him and does the same austerity. So Bhagavatam describes after so many years of doing austerity, her clothes were ruined, and she actually had matted hair. And she's a queen, so not even a queen, but practically any woman wouldn't like that, would have difficulty. But she did it too, because that's what her husband was doing. So she accepted the same austerity as her husband, and her husband was coming to this point where he wanted to take sannyas. He wanted to leave, and she said, but before you leave, please give me a child. So he agreed. It's a duty. Duty of a husband is to give a wife a child if she wants a child. And so he built this beautiful, beautiful, what was described as an aerial mansion. It was a mansion, but it was flying. So he had mystic powers, so pretty much he could create whatever he wanted to create. And then it describes how beautiful it was, and then also describes how she made herself beautiful, bathed herself, and so forth, and and he provided beautiful cloth and jewelry and everything. So the idea was, being described in that story, is that she did all this austerity for him, and it wasn't, and she was queen, so she wasn't used to it, and she was used to this standard that he was creating now, which is this mansion, and beautiful clothes, and beautiful furniture, and so forth. So he did that, and the reason he did that is for the reason that we're discussing tonight, is to please her. And obviously she was pleased, she was happy, and naturally, he was also satisfied. So there's a saying, we have this saying in America, which it's sometimes seen as a derogatory statement. And the statement goes like this: if mama's not happy, nobody's happy. And men would think, well, I don't want to surrender to that idea that if my wife's not happy, no one in the house will be happy, and that means I'm being controlled by my wife. But I would say two things about that. I would say, number one, as we're saying, whatever the case, that's one of the duties of the husband, to satisfy the wife. And Prabhupada has said that, and Shastra says that. And the other thing is, men don't like to think that they're controlled by women or controlled by their wives, which is why maybe some men wouldn't like that statement, or would have some issues with that statement. That why does it have to be that for the family life to be happy, that I have to be the one, I have to keep my wife happy, and if she's not happy, then family life's not going to be happy. So they might think that way because they feel that means either they have to be controlled by their wife, or they feel like that their wife is controlling, or perhaps that's wrong, and they should, now they're devotees and they shouldn't feel that way. And if I'm a strong man, then I should be the one controlling, not that whatever my wife says I have to do, because that means she's controlling the family, but I'm supposed to be the guru of the family, and I'm supposed to be the smart one, and she's not supposed to be as smart as me. And on and on and on, you have all this rationale, right? But if you look at that rationale, that works if that's your reasoning not to get married. Say, well, if I always have to satisfy this woman, that means I'll become controlled by her, and I don't want to become controlled by her. And why is it that, family life has to, the woman has to be satisfied, and is that really my duty? Isn't her duty to satisfy me? If you think that way, and you think, I don't want to really live a life that way, then you don't get married. And you understand that that's what household life is, because that's what household life is. So a man can't, when he's in it, it's like you dive in water, and then you're in the water and say, why does water have to be wet? I mean, this is like, it's cold out here. And if water were just like, if this water, let's say the water's warm, so you feel nice in the water, but it's cold outside, so when you get out of the water, you're very cold. So why does water have to be wet? Because now when I get out of the water, I'm cold, and you're cursing the water. No, it's just the nature. So the nature of male-female association is that the male has a duty to satisfy the wife, to keep the wife happy. It's an important duty. Many men are really, they're not very good at keeping their wives happy. Of course, they'll say, yeah, but nothing I do makes her happy. In rare cases, that may be true, but in general, it just means they don't know how, or they don't want to. And they don't know enough about women and relationships, or they believe that it's like a man will say, you know, I've done this for you, you should be happy, but you're not. And that might be true in some cases. But it's like, you're feeding me prasadam, right? And then I say, could I have some more dal? And you say, you should be full. I'm not giving you any more dal. You had enough. I say, no, but I'm still hungry. Well, you shouldn't be hungry. You should be full. I'm not giving you any more. So, you know, what's the point? You know, now I'm completely dissatisfied. So, it's something like that, you know. I mean, you can do that with children, and on occasions, you know, a husband may have to do that with his wife just because maybe it's getting out of hand. But in general, a man, it's his service. And for those of you who came late, we're also saying, and the service of the woman is to be satisfied. But the point is, you want a happy marriage, and if the wife is satisfied, then she's inclined to serve the husband. You know, many classes ago, I was making the point that we'll take it from the male point of view, because we spoke so much from the female point of view before. So we'll take it from the male point of view. So the male might say something like, my wife doesn't serve me so nicely. And we're saying here, but if you satisfy her, she'll serve you nicely. So then you have to think, well, maybe I'm not good at satisfying her. I don't know the science of satisfying my wife. Because if she's satisfied, naturally she'll serve you well. So that's how the man should think. Generally, you know, what is it that I have to do to satisfy the wife? And that's just part of what it means to be married. And if a man, I mean, every woman would like a man like that, right, ladies? You'd like a husband who, or maybe you have one, who thinks about your needs and satisfying you. And so naturally you're happy, and you satisfy your husband. And I think, you know, the duty of the wife is to serve the husband. We said before, the duty of the wife is always to be satisfied, to be happy, and so forth. But my point has been, and it's a very important point, that the men should make it hard for the women to be that way. And if they do, and then they expect them to be that way, that's foolishness. And as I said, a lot of men, they may be that way because they think, well, this is the duty of the wife, so I don't have to do anything. So whether I'm upset or I don't know how to satisfy her, just like we learned about Chaivana Muni, he had a bad temperament and his wife always satisfied him. So my wife should be that way, but that's so kunya, and that's a rare woman that could do that. Now, women do that in the hopes that their husbands will change, and in that story, he did change. And it's true that if a husband is grouchy or he's not good at satisfying his wife, still, the wife should try to satisfy him in the hopes that he'll change. And if he's a good man and normal and matures a little bit, and he talks to me, and he listens to these classes, then at some point he will understand, yes, that I should do that. And it's natural. I mean, the wife is she's always taking care of his needs, keeping the house clean, cooking, and so forth. So you would think a normal man would see that and say, I should satisfy her. And I think one of the ways men have difficulty in satisfying their wives, and also ways women have difficulty in satisfying their husbands, is being of a nice temperament, being in a good mood. Sometimes we're not in good moods. We get moody. Some people are more moody than others. And some people get more distraught by situations than others, and then they throw their anxieties on their spouse. Which is, in some sense, normal in a relationship, but for some people it happens too much. They're up and down. So one of the things that I think is important for both men and women is to not be that way. And if you are that way, part of the problem is you may not know you're that way. So if you don't know you're that way, then consider, are you that way? As I've said before, consider, are you an adult who sometimes has the emotional maturity of a child, which many of us do. And I was reading about, for example, this man who realized he had this problem. He said that when he was a kid, if he didn't get his way, he would just go into his room and slam the door and just mope and grope, or whatever. Sulk's the word. Yeah. My word is mope and grope, but the actual word is sulk. Just really upset that he didn't get his way. And I don't know if you were like that as a kid to one degree or another, but he said as an adult in marriage he did the same thing. He'd have, if he wanted something and his wife didn't want it, I guess if it was a big enough issue, he would just run out of the room and slam the door and sulk. It's really bad when you're married to act like a kid. It's really bad. And I think we all do it to some degree or another. So when we're talking about husband satisfying wife, wife satisfying husband, I think that's really important, to be very mature and very much in control of your emotions. And of course it's more difficult for women. Men are more, they were designed to be in control of their emotions to such a degree that sometimes they don't even show them, which is not good. But women were designed to be more, to vent their emotions more naturally, which I'm not saying you shouldn't do. You should all just completely change your nature, but to some degree we should. And it's also said that men, although they're in control of their emotions, when they become emotional, their intelligence shuts down. So men can also be very emotional and very childlike. And many people enter a marriage with some of these qualities. They don't even know they have them, and it can become very difficult for people they're living with it. If you're working, it can also become, if you're working close with people, it can also become difficult for people if you're not in control of your emotions, and then you start discriminating because you don't like people or treating them badly. And we hear about this, so many people tell me about this goes on in the corporate world, where there's envy and competition and you're pulling people down and criticizing. And I just call that emotional immaturity. I don't think a person who's really in control of their life needs to do that, or when they understand it's wrong, they can control it. And so let's say you realize something about yourself that, like when you were a kid, if you didn't get your way, you threw rocks at your mother or something. Or I had a friend, he just smashed a hole in his wall in his room. In America, the walls are made of this condensed chalk, so you can do that. In India, you can't, because the walls are made of brick and cement. You have to be pretty strong to smash the wall with your hand. So, wow, imagine me married to that guy, ladies. He smashed a wall. He got so mad when he was a teenager. So obviously he has some issues with, being frustrated and angry. And so let's say you're like that. You have anger issues. And you see this beautiful, beautiful, blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl, and you go, oh my God, I love her. I have to marry that girl. No, no, no. Hold on a minute. What you have to do is deal with your anger issues before you think about marrying anyone. Otherwise, marry a tiger and you can fight with a tiger because you're so angry. That's the only one you can be matched up with. This is very important. This is to me, is one of the most important things that is one of the biggest ways that we run into problems. I'm just telling you, Alejandro, there's class now because the announcement didn't go out. So, super important. And then, you're saying, well, how do I know what I'm like? That's, ask your mother. Say, what is my weirdness? And your mother says, well, you always used to get really frustrated and you'd give up on stuff and you just stop doing it. You didn't have a lot of patience. Or, when things didn't go your way, you just stopped playing with your friends and you just told them to leave the house. I mean, I know devotees have told me this. One devotee told me, said when she played in games, if anyone was going to win the game, she'd do something so she'd win. She couldn't stand to lose. I don't think you want to have an argument with a person like that, do you? So maybe you understand that, well, you have that nature that you're never going to lose. So even if you're wrong, you won't back down from the argument. I think I mentioned a question to you in another show, how would you like to be married to yourself? Some of you had to go to the hospital after I said that because you fainted, or you became nauseous and got really sick thinking about it. Oh no, that would be worse than going to Patala Loka or something. So, Hare Krishna. Sounds too loud? Somebody said? No, I don't know. So, we all are weird in our own ways. All of you and me, we all have even very advanced devotees, we all have our idiosyncrasies. It's just how we are. But some of our idiosyncrasies are not really problematic. Right? You just scratch your nose a lot. That's not really going to be a huge problem for your wife unless you're out at a fancy restaurant or a wedding or something with all her relatives and you're doing something that may not be the best thing to do in public because she's showing you off to everybody. And women, their egos are very much connected to their husband's behavior. So gentlemen, don't burp in public and don't let the air come out of the other end. As the joke goes, what did one burp say to the other? Let's be stinkers and come out the other end. So, women are concerned about that. Those kinds of things. But I think you get the picture. I told, I was giving class yesterday and I said, I was saying, how to be a good husband. Keep the bathroom clean, dress nicely, and don't burp in public, and you'll be fine. Oh yeah, and also be nice, yeah. But these other three are very important. Right, ladies? Keep the bathroom clean, don't burp in public, and dress nicely. Right? Marina said yes. Who cares if he's nice or not? As long as he does those three, we'll tolerate him. We won't kick him out of the house, right? Yeah, we can deal with him. So, gentlemen, if you want to get married, you need to take a course in how to withstand burps and passing air in public places where other people become aware of it. You need to take lessons in cleaning. So find a book on how to keep bathrooms clean. Keeping bathroom clean for dummies. And you need to know that orange and purple don't match in case you wear orange and purple together. And pink, orange, purple, and what else? Brown, green shirts don't look good. You need to know that. Oh yeah, bathroom is a must, yeah. Especially guys, hairs in the bathtub. No, that's a no-no. You gotta wash the bathtub after you take a shower. Very important. If you want to have a happy marriage, you have to wash the bathtub after you take a shower. No hairs allowed. Water all over the sink and knobs. You have to wash it up and clean the toilet seat after you get up. Yeah. So you need to need to understand that. And dressing, have to know how to dress. The best way to learn how to dress is just ask your wife, do I look like a bum or not? And how can I de-bum and de-slob my dress? Now, I have to admit, some guys know how to dress, but they are part women, that's why they know. They got some women Shakti in their genes, so they know that. Or they're going to get fired from their job, right? So they go to work and they dress nice, but they come home and they're like, oh my God. They're like, oh my, the wife's like, oh my God, what's wrong with him? Yeah, so, but as funny as it sounds, if we're talking here about the duties of a man, so we got on the case of women for like 5 weeks, so now it's time to get on the case of men. And all you men out there, that you have to decide whether this relates to you. I'm not saying it relates to every man, and it relates 100 degrees, 100% to every man, but you decide if it relates to you. So you think, what does how I dress have anything to do with satisfying a wife? But the wife's ego is connected to you because you're her husband. So when, you're going out to, well, if you're a Hindu, you're going out to a wedding like 3 times a week, right? 150 weddings a year. Because everyone in the universe is your cousin or your second cousin or third cousin or great uncle or great aunt or 14th removed generation you're part of, which is why the Indians like being in America, so they don't have to go to 150 weddings. They only have to go to like 2, right? Yeah. Not that he's a bum or anything, he just dresses like one. Yeah. So, all you Americans, you're very fortunate, because if you're a Hindu and you live within 3 hours flight of your relatives, everyone's your relative. You'll be going to a lot of weddings. So, and so your husband, he goes with you to the wedding, right? And so you go and you spent like 3 hours. What to speak of how many hours you spent shopping to buy the sari you're going to wear and the jewelry. You spend 3 hours with your hair, with your makeup, with your jewelry. Put your sari on, put it off, put it off till it gets perfect. And then your husband shows up, and you go, "You're gonna go like that?" He got ready like you started. You had to leave at 3. You started at 1. He started at 2:59 getting ready, right? And he's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with the way I look?" And she's like, "Oh my God, kick this bum out of the house." So, gentlemen, that's where many of you need help, right? So, my point is, if your duty is to satisfy your wife, it's not just, well, look I go to work every day and I bring home a paycheck, so she should just be satisfied. There's a house, there's a car, there's food. Yes, yes, yes. She should be satisfied with that, and she is satisfied with that. But it's like, look I made dal and rice. Just be happy with that. Well, where's the sabji? Where's the chapatis? Where's the salad? Where's the dessert? Just be said, dal and rice is enough. You could live on dal and rice. Don't complain. Why? How did I end up with this guy? What sinful activities have I performed in my past lives end up with you as my husband? Don't say that to your husband, ladies. That would not be nice. You might think like that, but that's your karma. Accept it. So, gentlemen, satisfying your wife if your wife says, those pants are too big or too tight, or that shirt was popular in 1973, but it doesn't cut it in 2014, don't say, what does it matter? Who cares? If she cares, that's enough for you to care. If you learn that lesson, you'd be very happily married. If you don't learn that lesson, then I would say you need brain surgery, because there's something in your brain that's not working. You have to learn these things. You have to, because you're going to learn it. You're going to learn it sooner or later. So you might be married when you're 25. But this is stupid. I dress the way I want. I wear holy shirts and T-shirts and no socks. That's just how I am. Wedding, no wedding. This is how I dress. Formal, informal. This is formal as I get, as I'll put on a new T-shirt instead of an old one. A new pair of jeans. That's it. No, that just means you're dumb. You're going to learn sooner or later, and you're going to have to surrender to it. And I think part of the problem with men is they don't want to surrender to women, because after all, we know men are smarter than women, and men should control women, and men should not be controlled by women, which is the biggest joke I've ever heard in my life. I'm not going to be controlled by my wife. Hello, you got married. That's not being in control of a woman? Give me a break. The people who are not controlled by women, they're called brahmacharis, in case you didn't notice, sannyasis. Vanapras, those are the ones who are not controlled by women. The guys called grihastas, they're the ones controlled by women. Did anybody tell you when you were getting married that you were controlled by a woman? You saw this woman, you went, oh my God, she's so beautiful. I want to marry her. That's not being controlled by a woman? What is it? So now you think, I'm not going to be controlled by women. You already are controlled by a woman, that's why you got married. So that's like a guy eats dessert and says, I don't eat sweets. But you just ate a sweet. No, I don't eat sweets. Everyone's looking at him going, okay, you don't eat sweets. We didn't see you eat. That wasn't a sweet, right? Yeah, something's wrong with us. No. So this is one of the, guys are like saying, I'm intelligent, I'm a man, I'm smart, I'm not controlled by, I'm so smart, I'm not controlled by women. Yeah, right. You prove your stupidity by saying that. Any man who says that, we know he needs an intelligent transplant, because he's missing it up there. So, gentlemen, if you want to get married and you don't want to be controlled by a woman, that's called being single and going to a prostitute. If you just want sex, so that's why you're getting married, to have sex. That's why they had prostitutes in Vedic society, for guys like you. Excuse me. Guys like you who don't want to be controlled by women. Hello, not controlled by women. Oh, you just want to be controlled for like a half hour at the prostitute's place. Then now you're free, you're not controlled by women until you get sexually agitated again, and that is the stupidest statement I ever heard a man say, I'm not controlled by women, when they're actually controlled at every second by the beauty of women. So just accept you're controlled by them, and then a smart guy thinks, well, if I want to be happy, being controlled by women, then I should do what makes them happy, because if they're happy, I'll be happy. It's not a bad thing. It's not like a derogatory joke when mama's not happy, nobody's happy. It's just the way it is. I mean, if you're not happy, nobody in your family's going to be happy either. So it's not, like, there's nothing wrong with that, it's just the way it is. Why do you think you want the woman to serve you? Why would she want to serve you if you don't do anything to please her? If you don't keep the bathroom clean, it's harder for her to serve you. If you burp in public, if you don't dress well, and if you're not nice, if you don't know how to be nice, because you're a tough guy. So tough guys aren't nice to their wives. That's for the what do you call those guys who aren't tough? What's the opposite of a tough guy? A weakling. That's for the weaklings. The weaklings submit to their wives. The tough guys, they're not nice. They're tough, right? So Gentlemen, hear what I have to say next. It's very important for you. This class is, we'll title this class, Slashing the Male False Ego, which might take about 108 classes to fully slash, but I'm making this huge attempt. Maybe it's impossible, but we're going to try. I must be crazy that I'm trying to do this, but the male ego may be invincible. It may be beyond control, but we're going to try, okay? We're going to see if it's possible. So, gentlemen, make sure you're sitting down, because don't have a picture of me in front of you, because you may get mad at me when I say this. But there's a difference between, write this down. There's a difference between being a man's man and being a lady's man. There is a difference between being a man's man and a lady's man. What is a man? What impresses men will not necessarily impress women. What impresses men? Being tough. Right? You wear the pants in the family. That impresses men. Because men are stupid. Although it says women are less intelligent than men. Intelligence is different from being stupid. Every woman who's married knows that men are stupid, right? It's just they live with them and they see what they do. You know, this guy is stupid. He's intelligent, he can fix things. He understands mathematics and science. But in practical things, he's stupid. She tells him something like 400 times, he doesn't get it. She's like, this guy is stupid, right? So this is one thing a lot of guys don't get, So you're the man's man is like, yeah, I'll wear the pants in the family. Yeah, everyone's patting you on the back. Yeah, you're the man, you're the tough guy. Somebody messes around with you, you punch him in the face. Yeah, you're the tough guy. Like in all the Bollywood movies, right? The hero of the movie, because I fly a lot in airplanes, so I have the great fortune of sitting next to people who watch Bollywood movies for like 8 hours on a flight. Those are basically all on these overseas flights, from America to India. All people do is eat, sleep, and watch TV. It's total hell if you're flying alone to be with that. It's like I can't. There's few things that are worse than that. Maybe getting your tooth pulled or having a root canal might be worse, but that's all that goes on. They're just your average materialistic person and really good at eating, sleeping, and watching television. They're really expert. I'd give them an A in all three of those, based on what I see on the airplane. So in these Bollywood movies, which I have the great misfortune to be sitting next to people and in front of and behind people so I can see all the screens watching the same movie, the one guy is being attacked by all these other guys because he's all the bad guys, and he's coming, he knows jujitsu, karate, this and that, and he's like picking people up by their hand, and he's like Krishna, twirling them around, throwing them 100 yards away, kicking them 100 yards away, throwing them up on buildings, spinning them around. Right? Now, ladies thinking, this is supposed to be sexy, right? In the movie, this is sexy. But a smart woman's thinking, that guy could do that to me also. If that's all the guy's got going is that he can punch people, and he's like, that's how he deals with me, I'm out of here. He's handsome, but that's not enough to get me going. Ladies are not. See, like guys, they look at a girl and she's beautiful, and he goes, that's enough for me. But the women are like, that's okay that he's beautiful, but, he doesn't know how to be nice to ladies. So that's the guy's guy. The guys, in the movies, it's supposed to be portrayed as all women are going, wow, look at those muscles. This guy's tough. I want to hang out with him. But if he's not nice, they don't want to hang out with him. And if they're smart, they're thinking, is he going to do that to me when we get in a fight? Is he going to, pick me up and throw me 100 yards like he throws these guys? Smart woman will think like that. But the guy's thinking, no, that'll impress the women. I'm a tough guy. I beat guys. I beat guys up. When we disagree, I beat them up. That's what impresses the guys. when some guy's harassing you and you have a conversation and you pacify him, the guys are like, oh, this guy's like a sissy, you know, why don't you just punch him in the face? But when the girls see you do that, they go, wow, that is amazing. That guy is amazing. Do you see what he just did? This guy was harassing him and he talked him out of it. He like empathized with him. He really was sensitive and the other guy just was pacified. That will please the women. The men will think, this guy's a loser. Should have just punched him. Guys don't know that, right? So now the guys, you have to understand what it means, the difference between the guy's man and the lady's man. That's, if a lady's upset, you think she likes that you slap her in the face? You think she likes you say, you're just stupid, you're just emotional, get it together, like a sergeant would do in the military with another man, you know? They're out, you know, he's breaking down in a war and just, get it together, private. Get your act together, or I'll shoot your head off, or your head will be shot off. You know? So that's the man's man. And you can deal with men that way. That may help men. But women, that's not how women want it, you know. Women want to be heard. So to be a ladies' man, you have to exhibit other qualities. The qualities which will be pleasing to the lady. And gentlemen, if you don't know what they are, there's a couple of ways you can find out. There's books, there's lectures, or you might even ask her, which is probably the last thing you thought of doing. Or your ego, the last thing your ego thought of doing, you say, like, well, what do you want? What will make you happy? What am I doing? What can I do? Wow. Imagine, ladies, your husband said, how could I become a better husband? Actually go up to you and say, how could I be a better husband? You'd probably faint before you could answer the question. That, you don't even have to answer the question. That alone in itself was like enough, right? So this is a big problem for men. Although I'm making this funny, is actually a huge problem for men because the male ego wants to be so much in control. But I'm saying, guys, don't be stupid. You're not in control. If you were in control, you wouldn't have got married. Guys, if you're in control, you'd see Bhakti Kamala with lotus eyes, lotus feet, lotus hands, lotus cheeks, lotus everything. And you just say, wow, she's very attractive. I hope she finds a husband who can take care of her. That's how you would think if you're not controlled by a woman. You wouldn't think, I hope I could be in line for her. I would like to hang out with her. Does that mean you're controlled by her? She didn't even say anything to you. Does that mean you're controlled by her? That's what it means. So to think you're not controlled, be real. If you want to get married, you're already in control. So why pretend after you're married, you're not in control? And you say, you're more intelligent than women? I don't think so. As I said, you need an intelligent transplant if that's how you think. So if you just submit to satisfy your wife, then in some sense you'll be in control because then she'll be happy to serve you. And gentlemen, if you ever complain about your wife not serving you nicely, you might want to think about how you're treating her, that she doesn't want to serve you nicely. Now, I will admit there may be some women whose training and disposition and temperament make it difficult also to be the submissive, Vedic, perfect wife that you dream about. But I have to inform you, they don't make perfect Vedic wives outside of Indian villages anymore. And I don't know if you want to marry an Indian village girl who dropped out of school when she was 11. You may culturally and intellectually not get along so well, but you might, because if you want the perfect Vedic wife, then you have to go searching in a village for one. But then all your relatives are going to be villagers. I don't know if your parents are going to relate to them, how they do things. You understand what I'm saying. So if you want a woman who's culturally similar to you in education, culture, and like that, well, she wasn't raised to be the ideal Vedic wife. So you can't just expect, because she wasn't raised that way, that she's just going to do it. But if you're a good husband and you satisfy her, then naturally she wants to do it. That's human psychology. So don't be so Men, don't be so dumb to think your wife is just supposed to do this because the Bhagavatam says it. Yeah, and you're supposed to be a pure devotee because the Bhagavatam says it. So get to work on that. And Bhagavatam shows you how to be the ideal husband. But when you read those verses, you kind of fell asleep, right? And you woke up when you read the verses about how the women are supposed to be. That's the problem. The verses about how the man's supposed to be, they didn't stick. It was only the verses about how the woman's supposed to be. You see, that's all male ego problem. So, we go back to the point, don't think, well, if I just satisfy my wife, I'm being controlled. Think I'm being smart. See, you don't think that way. You think you're being stupid. No, you're being smart. This is what I tell devotees. Look at it this way. If you don't do that, you're just going to get in arguments and fight, which takes a lot more time and energy than it does just to satisfy her, which only takes a few moments. Right? You buy her a nice present, she's happy, right? You don't, after a while she gets upset and she starts complaining about you, and you say, what's wrong with me? I'm good. And you have a big argument about how good you are. That argument took a lot more time, a lot more energy than just going out and buying some flowers, which only took you 5 minutes. You get the picture? Smart guys that don't paddle upstream. And the other thing that guys do, they go, well, why do women have to be that way? That's stupid. You know, they shouldn't be that way. That's not Krishna conscious. They're so attached. They're so this, they're so that. That's also where men need an intelligence transplant to understand women are a certain way. You're not going to, God made him that way. If you have a problem with the way are women, then give Krishna a call and argue with him. He created him that way, It's not, you don't have a problem with women, you have a problem with how Krishna created them. So complain to him, don't complain to your wife. It's not her fault that Krishna made her that way, that's just how she is. So you have to understand, then, they see that the problem is that the guys think, this is how my wife is. No other women in the universe are like this, just my wife. You also need, that's another intelligent transplant is required there. All women are that way. That's how they're created. Now, are all women exactly the same? No, there's different degrees of, some women can live more simply than others. Some women are more emotionally controlled than others. But, where's that woman that wants to live like Mother Teresa? There might be 3 on the planet right now. So guys, when your wife, says, I want this, I want that, and don't think, what verse in the Bhagavatam? Well, it's that, think, we're renounced, we're Hare Krishna devotees, we don't do that stuff. There's some truth to it, but not a whole lot, because you can't go against nature. So where's the verse? Devahuti Kardama, the story. He built her an aerial mansion, which was beautiful and opulent. Why? Because that's what she was used to. That's what she liked. So, it's just how it is. You have to accept that. So you accept your role. I don't like to say being controlled by women, because then it makes the women sound like they're controlling their husbands. And so I don't want it to be a derogatory statement towards women. But what I'm actually saying, and I hope you understand what I'm saying, is that you're just trying to satisfy your wife, because that's what a good marriage is. And the wife, she's trying to satisfy you. That's her duty. You're both trying to satisfy one another. But all I'm saying, as I've said before, don't make it hard on your wife to satisfy you by not doing the things that would please her. So I was making a statement, I don't think I finished it. I was saying that, men will say, my wife is like this or my wife is like that. Well, they're saying something negative about the wife. Or we don't have a good relationship or whatever. And I would say the first thing is look at yourself and say, are you acting in a way that you're not able to have a good relationship? Are you acting in a way that doesn't bring out her nature or her desire to satisfy and please you and do the right things? I say, do you not understand? I would say, if you have a bad relationship, it's probably because you don't understand the science of relationship. Just like my wife, when she first got computers, she would say that my computer doesn't work, because she didn't know how to use the software or didn't know how to use the computer. And I'd go on and try to do what she couldn't do and say, it works for me. I don't know, everything, it's like, It's like every time she uses it, it doesn't work, and every time I use it, it works. Mystical, right? I must have magnetic energy in my hands to make computers work. So it's the same thing when a man says, my wife this, my wife that. Men, when you say that, maybe you don't know how to use the software, you don't know how to use the computer. That's the first thing you should think. Do I not know how to use the computer? And that's why I do this and the computer doesn't operate properly. Then Mahatma gets on it and the computer operates properly. So think like that. It's not just her, but am I doing things which are causing her to react in a way that's not nice? Okay, we have a question. Is it possible to experience a real love between husband and wife, or the real love is just between Krishna and us? Yes, we've discussed this before. Okay, let's answer your question in the context of what we're talking about now. Implied in your question is there is a difference between love between Krishna and love between us. And there is a difference. Because love between us and Krishna is soul to soul. It's not based on the body. It's based on the soul. And the category of that love is called rasa. And the rasa is analyzed in our Shastra. And it's something very deep and very intense because it's between you and Krishna. And so that kind of love and that intensity will never, the closest you might get to that is between the love of guru and disciple, or the love of two very dear devotee friends. But it's still going to be different. So we don't want to say there's no love, although Prabhupada says there's no love in the material world. It's usually just lust. But when we discussed this, we've been talking about affection. And we talked about two things. We talked about affection and we talked about duty. So one of the sayings I have, which is a nice mantra you can write on your forehead or somewhere, or you'll see it every morning when you go in the mirror. The duty of the wife, or if you're a man, the duty of the husband is to love the wife or to love the husband. That's your duty. And that of course, from the Western perspective, sounds really weird to say your duty is to love. Because our conception is love is spontaneous, right? You can't force anyone to love. That's our philosophy. Krishna doesn't force us. It's natural. But within Grihastha ashram, that's one of the duties, that's one of the dharmas. So we live by dharma. Dharma means Shastra controls our actions. So we don't know how to act perfectly in every situation. So that we have Shastra, and then Shastra shows us how to act. So one of the ways we act, we say we act out of love and affection for our husbands and wives. And it takes time to really get this concept together. But let's say, Alejandra, let's say you're married, and your husband's nice and everything, but sometimes he does things which are upsetting or discouraging or are not attracting your heart. Or he's done something to hurt you, and it's hard, you're finding it hard to really love him because he hurt you. But you think, my duty is to love him. And Krishna gave me this man to serve, and that's my duty, to serve him and show affection. So even though deep down in your heart, if you said, do you really love your husband? You say, well, this deep, deep, deep love, you might say, I have some love, but it's not really deep. But by your actions, you're showing this deep love and affection. But that's what you're supposed to do, because that's your duty. And that love and affection will be stronger when you act that way, because how you act will affect your consciousness. And it's your duty anyway to act that way. So if you have 100% love or 80% love or 90% or 50%, it's your duty to show it. You see, in the Western concept of love, we have two problems. One, we see love as a feeling, And then we say, 10 years after marriage, we say, I lost the feeling. I just read this wonderful article, and the man was saying it used to be at marriage they'd say, we stay together as long as we shall live. He said, now it's as long as we shall love. We stay together as long as we shall love. So you see the obvious problem there, right? Now we say, what devotees would say, I serve you as long as we shall live. And we say that love is manifest in service, devotional service. So we don't say love is just an emotion. Well, I love you and now I lost the feeling. Alejandra, when you were a young devotee, I had a lot of affection for you. Now you've grown older and you're kind of becoming like set in your ways, and I don't really, like you that much anymore. So let's just, separate, because I lost the feeling. Would you want to be married to somebody like that? Or would you want to be married to a guy who's taken loving you as his duty as a husband, and he'll do that his entire life, even in spite of the fact that you get set in your ways and you do things that are not lovable in his eyes? He still has it as his duty to love you. Now, the answer, I'm sure, is yes. But when you're first married, you would say, no, I want a guy who loves me because he really loves me, right? I don't want a guy who loves me because it's his duty to love me, because then I feel like he doesn't love me, he's just doing it out of duty. And that's not it's not real, it's not spontaneous, it's not this and that. But if you do it the other way, then you run the risk that at some point you're going to act in ways that he's not going to love. Or, Alejandra, you're very attractive now. You're thin and slim and beautiful. What if you gain 100 kgs in the next 5 years, and your husband looks at you and goes, oh my God, I can't deal with this. I'm divorcing you. You want a husband like that? Of course not. But if you gain 100 kgs and your husband thinks it's my duty to protect my wife, to take care of her, to love her, that's my duty, I love her through service, then you're good to go. He's going to stay with you. And externally, you'll never know how much affection, attachment he has for you or not, because his actions will always be those of affection and attachment, which is very instructive now to the men. And this is a whole different mentality than we have in the West, because how can a marriage last? Let's say, like, you get married now, and you're like 30, and so your marriage is going to go 30, 40 years before you guys leave your bodies or would think about separating, so your husband could take sannyas, or you even become vanapras, which is vanapras is it's a kind of way of, it's ending the marriage from the material perspective. So you think, who do you want to live with for 30 years? The one who has natural affection? With the divorce rate of 50%, you have a 50% chance that the natural affection is going to go zzz, as we say, fizzle out, right? And then you'll have to go into therapy to pump it up again, and he's going to have to, which can happen. It definitely can happen. But within that therapy, they're going to learn, and so your duty is to love this woman. This is the woman God gave you to love. So you have to love her. You have to serve her. That's your duty. That's what they're going to learn. So might as well learn it before you get married, that that's your duty, is to love. So when Prabhupada says there's really no love in this world, what he's saying is that if Alejandra, your husband, loves you because you're young and beautiful and funny and this and that, and then when you're older, you just look funny, but that's not funny to him anymore. And then he's like, well, you look funny now, so I don't want to marry you. I don't want to stay with you. Then we understand when Prabhupada says there's no love in the world. Yeah. Then he doesn't love you, because the love he had for you was because he was getting a lot of sense gratification from being around you. So he loved you. Just like you love a certain food because it tastes good. So that conception of love is if that's why we get married, huge trouble. Yeah, so here's a good point Brindami is saying. In India, love grows after marriage because the marriages were arranged. Divorces are not common. Things have changed. Your expectation and your duties in marriage are different when they're arranged. So why is the love growing? Because you're serving one another, and naturally by serving, affection grows. And Prabhupada said that. Vrindavani Prabhupada said the same thing. It was when he was asked how, if you marry a woman and you don't love her, what happens? Because it's arranged. And Prabhupada said, by serving one another, naturally the love grows. So whenever you serve someone, affection grows. So there should be affection in marriage, but if it's not in some way duty bound, then it can just get lost and fizzled out. And say, I don't feel it. Okay, but if you have, as I said, if you have a husband who's duty bound to serve you, and husbands, you should pay attention, then even if it fizzles externally, you'll never see, fizzles internally, you'll never see externally any different. He's still duty bound. He still shows concern for you. He takes care of you. Externally, he does everything the same. Your husband's going to become more detached 30 years from now. It's just, that's what happens in Krishna consciousness. But the manifestation of his affection is not going to be any different, although internally he's not like dependent so much on being with you in your association and enjoying it like he did when he was younger. But you're not going to see that so much. You're not going to, at least you're not going to see a decline in the manifestation of affection. Although you may understand, after 30 years, he's very detached. He's probably, he probably would be fine if we weren't married. But he's not showing that externally. He's doing all his duties. He's affectionate to the kids. He's affectionate to me. He takes care of me. So the duty to love concept, it's very awkward in Western mentality, because the Western mentality it's all about love marriages. We fall in love, we like one another. There's different kind of marriages according to the Vedic paradigm, and one of them is the love marriage. And within the love marriage, sometimes you kidnap a woman, or you just fall in love. There are 4 kinds of these marriages. I forget all 4, but in all 4 types of these marriages, there's no parents involved. And then there's 4 other types of marriages where the parents are involved. In one type, the father finds the husband. In another type, the girl may find the husband, but she goes to the father and says, can I marry him? Or the boy goes to the father, can I marry? But whatever the case is, it always goes through the father. Excuse me. It always goes through the father. He always gives his approval in one way or another. And so it's said in Kali Yuga, the only bona fide marriage is the marriage in which the father approves, or the parents approve. That if it's the boy and girl just fall in love and then they go to the parents and say, we're getting married, no, the boy and girl can fall in love, that happens, or lust, or whatever you want to call it, fall in something. You hear the saying, you fall in love, but after 2 years you have to learn how to climb in love. Because the love is making you fall, it's true. Now you learn how to climb in love. So, in all these marriages, you want to get approval of the father. So even if you fall in love, you go say, Daddy, I'm in love with this boy, can I marry him? And your father says, no way, that guy's a bum. You have to listen. So I'm not going to let you marry that guy. That's the stupidest mistake you ever made. So the idea is you don't marry only with your heart, you marry with your head also. And so if you don't, the parents, they'll act like the intelligence if you don't have any. So it's a different culture. But you see, look at, we hear all these things and go, wow, that'd be weird if my father arranged my marriage. I don't know if I could marry someone like that, right? That's the Western mentality. It's totally understandable that you would think that way, right? And this whole idea of the duty to love, well, but love's all about affection, and if it's just duty, how could you actually live together? If it's just duty, if it's not real heart connection, and this and that. The Western mind doesn't understand it because it doesn't understand Dharma well. And Dharma simply means you're doing it because Krishna wants you to. So as a husband, you do your Dharma. You understand exactly what your Dharma is as a husband. You understand what it is as a wife. And you do it. And your duties all manifest in service. And service, as Vrindavani is saying, all affection will come from service. And if it doesn't, you still manifest affection because that's your duty. So that idea of the Western mind's going, that's weird. That's weird. I don't understand. Live with somebody, it's all about duty, We're just, we're going out to the restaurant together, and the low candlelight, and it's all just about duty. Not exactly that, when a man's with a woman, a woman's with a man, it's not exactly just about duty. They like doing those things. But if the man doesn't feel like going to the restaurant and the wife does and he wants to please her, so he'll do it out of duty. And he'll have a good time anyway. Your wife says, let's do this, let's go to the beach. Oh, I'm busy, I don't want to. No, we have to go with the kids. But you'll go to the beach, you'll have a good time. It's nice weather, the ocean's nice. You'll come back and you go, yeah, that was good, I like that. So you did it out of duty, but it's not like everything in the family is just, it's just torture. It's not like that, Life can be torturous, family, no family. There will be torture times, there's no doubt. But you will also have good times. It's part of the reason you get married, to have some good times. So, Western mind has a really hard time with that. But look at the statistics. 50% divorce rate on the first marriage, 70 on the second, 80 on the third. And that doesn't even include all the people who didn't get married, who just lived together. So it's actually higher than 50%. Because the people who lived together, how many of those people got married? So if they separated, I consider that a divorce. So that we can say more than 50% of people married or living together get divorced. That's the result of so-called affection. Right? So you see, you understand the principle? Yeah, I think it's a really good point. So what you want to do, Alejandra and Alejandra, what you want to do, all of you, Alejandra and others, what you want to do, actually I lost you, I got kicked off. Got kicked off the chat. What you want to do is, Marina's saying it's so funny because it's so true, right? It's hard to follow your dad's advice. You always think you know better, yeah. Well, you might in some cases, but Anna, my instruction to you is don't fall in love with anybody. Use your ladies, well, not just to Anna, but to all of you. Ladies, when you come in contact with a man who appears to be somebody attractive to you, this is what you do. There's a little switch that takes you, a little switch, you know where it is, or find out where it is, that takes you from your heart to your head. Turn that switch on and go into your head. Okay? And let me explain why. Because after you marry somebody, that switch gets turned on automatically by the guy when he starts doing things that you don't like. And you go into your head and you go, oh my Govinda, how did I end up with this guy? I was so stupid. I should have listened to Mahatma Prabhu when he said, turn on the switch that activates the intelligence. And start looking at this guy through your intelligence. Is this guy going to be a good father? Is he sensitive? Can he listen? Is he weird? Is he just a big baby? Etc., etc. Ladies, you already know what to look for. You know all these things 100 times better than men. Men don't know what to look for. Men just look for the big blue eyes. And they're like, I'm sold with blue eyes, that's it. I'll sign on any contracts. I'll sign right there. That's men. Men are like, they're hopeless when it comes to women. They're just like, they just see a beautiful woman and the butter becomes, melted. They're finished. There's nothing they can do. But ladies, you actually have a better chance. I think ladies have a better chance of finding a good man than men have a chance of finding a good woman. Because ladies aren't so bewildered by the physical. Even some ladies, they're not even attracted by the physical. They don't think men are beautiful. Because women are much more beautiful than men, when you actually, just objectively. Men have hair on their face. Of course, women might think that's attractive, but, think about it, ladies. It's hair. It's on their face. It's on their back. It's on their chest. I mean, it's all over them. They're like, one step down from gorillas. They're not that attractive physically. So, but all the guy has to do is tell the girl to be nice to her a little bit, right? Anna, right? That guy's nice to you for 5 minutes. You're like, oh my God, he's so nice. Yeah, you know why he's nice to you half the time? 3/4 of the time? 80% of the time? 90% of the time? 99? You know why? Should I tell you? It's spelled with 3 letters, and the first letter is S, and the last letter is X. That's why he's nice to you. So don't fall for it. You know? So, yeah, it's true. Mahatma Prabhu only speaks the truth, whether you like it or not. Yes. You know it's true. Anna, you know it's true. All you ladies, you know it's true. Now, I'm not saying every guy is nice to you because he wants sex. There might be 1 out of 7 billion that aren't, and hopefully you find that one and have a happy marriage. But most of the other guys, yeah, that's how they think. Now, you're saying, but what about devotees? Okay, devotees are different. Not entirely, but a little bit. But devotees are conditioned, so sometimes they fall under their conditioned nature. So, when you think of a guy, you have to think of so many things. You know, was he, it's not just does he have a good job and make a lot of money. That's important. You have to think about that. Can he listen? Is he sympathetic? Is he nice? Does he know how to be gentle? Because these are all the things that you want, right? Will I be able to dress him? Will he listen to me when I tell him, you dress like a bum? This is how I want you to dress. Will he listen? Will he go, oh, thank you for telling me that? I don't have to tell you what to look for. You already know what to look for. You're wired to look for it. It's just when the heart button gets pushed, the intelligence button gets dampened, and you don't think, oh, he's such a nice guy. He's so nice. He's so this. Look at those muscles. Oh, my God. Then you're in trouble. And the guy's thinking, hey, I got her, I know all the lines, right, In a few more nights, I'll be in bed with her. And then what happens after he's in bed with you? He doesn't call you back. Or he wants to go in bed with you the next night. You don't want a relationship like that. If you're smart, or if you're not, you want to be smart from today forward. This is my instruction to all women in the universe. Never, ever, 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 ever have any close relationship with any man who you do not think could be a wonderful husband and a wonderful father. Don't even think about spending more than 2 minutes with any guy who doesn't have that potential. Number 1. And number 2, never, ever, ever, a million times have sex with any man you're not married to, and even if you're married to him, with any man you're not sure you're going to be married to this guy in a few years. If you have any doubt that it's going to work out, don't have kids with this guy. That's my instruction to all women of the universe. And all women of the universe, please follow that instruction, because your life will be much better if you follow it. So thus ends today's comedy routine. I wasn't even trying to be funny, just trying to be real, but the truth is funny. There are many valuable instructions in this class today. One of the things I want to reiterate, which is an important instruction, I just briefly mentioned it, but wasn't the central point of this, but it's a corollary point to, I think, every point we make about Grihastha life, which is it's easier to get it right than it is to do it wrong and then have to make it up later to make it right. So, the saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So what's the prevention? The prevention is doing your duties as a good husband, a good wife. Then things go smoothly. But when you don't, then you have to repair it because somebody in the family is upset, and then you have to deal with it. So it's an important principle. In life in general, you want to put energy positively. Positive things you want to put energy into. So, if you're smart, or if you're not and you want to be smart, here's how to be smart. Do things that work rather than do things rather than do things you like that don't work, do things you feel like. I'm not going to act that way. No woman's going to tell me what to do. Yeah, then you'll argue with her for, like 47 years until you finally do what she wants, and then you'll stop arguing. So, how smart is that? Right? I'm not going to do what any woman tells me to do. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. If you want to remain married, you are. If you want to keep her happy, you are. So, I'm the tough guy. I don't do what my wife tells me. Yeah, tough guy. You've got no brain. You might be tough, but your brain is tough also. It's so tough it doesn't work. So, it's just smart. The wife satisfies the husband satisfies the wife. You don't have to fight. You don't have to. How much time? If married ladies and gentlemen, those who are married, if I gave you all the time back, let's say all the time you spent arguing with your husband or your wife, if that time we put in a little container, at the end of your life you got it back, well, you'd have a lot of time. You'd have a lot of extra time to live, wouldn't you? Yes. So how many, you're like, well, I have years on my life. Yeah, so you wasted years arguing. And did you win the argument? No, of course not. Did your husband get it? He pretended to get it, but the next day he did the same thing. So just, the whole thing is that we're talking about is you do the right thing, you become ideal. And put your energy into doing the right thing. Don't put your energy into arguing about what you don't like. It's always put your energy into what you're for and what's the right thing, not what you're against. So, on that happy note, we are going to end this class, unless there's some question on my part. Okay. So, I'm making so much advancement because, as we said, when you make devotees laugh, you make advancement. So, this is one of the funniest topics that exists. Anyway, there's truth in every joke I said. There's deep meaning and truth, which I hope you get. And if you get what I said, okay, let's end it with this. So now, the men are hearing what I'm saying, and some of the men are saying, never heard that before. Or the other men are saying, I was afraid that was true, but I didn't want to face up to the fact that that is true. But I guess it is, because Prabhu is saying it is, and he must know what he's talking about, because he's married, and he's a devotee. And so you face up to the fact that it's true, and now you're saying, I don't know if I can do that. And Mahatma Prabhu says, if you don't know you can do that, don't get married until you know you can do it, because it's not going to work. And then you're thinking, but I'm different, and I'll find a wife that's different. You know how many people thought that, who ended up divorced? 100%. So don't think like that. Well, for me it's going to be different because this girl is special and we would never fight and I'll always love her. Everybody thought like that. So my instruction to all of you who've heard what are the duties of the husband and wife, and of course we're going to hear more duties of the husband in future classes, you have to be able to be that husband or be that wife before you get married, because if you're not, you're going to have trouble. I will guarantee, I will sign a contract for you and guarantee you will have trouble to the degree you don't understand these things. You will have, to the degree you understand them, you will proactively solve problems before they ever happen. So, choice is yours, folks. And the saying is, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. So now you've been forewarned what it's like, be forearmed. And Marina will testify in court that everything I say is the truth, nothing but the truth, so help me Krishna. Yes, Marina? Yes, she's going to say yes. We're waiting for her to say yes. If she's still here, anyway. I'll say yes for her if she's not here. And, yeah, it's true. And the sooner you accept it and understand it, the better husband and wife you'll be, and the happier you'll be in marriage, and you have a lovely marriage, and end of your life, you'll be good to go back to Godhead. Don't be afraid of having a good marriage. I want to talk about that in the next class. I think some men especially are afraid of having a marriage that's too good. They don't want to have too much affection for their wife because they think that's not Krishna conscious. So we'll talk about that next week. And no, not next week, on Saturday. Yeah, we're good for class on Saturday. Okay? So thank you for listening. Have a nice rest. I guess most of you are going to go to sleep now, and I just woke up. And I'm going to chant Hare Krishna right now. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.